It started like any other Monday night at Mason's Bistro. Dim lighting, the scent of garlic and rosemary drifting from the open kitchen, and the soft clinking of wine glasses. But what no one knew that night was that the man seated alone at table 9 wasn't just a quiet customer. He was the owner of the restaurant, disguised, undercover, and desperate to find the truth behind a troubling series of events. What he discovered in just under 2 hours would unravel lives, expose a criminal underworld, and leave the town of Coleridge, Oregon, reeling in heartbreak and betrayal. Mason Carter, 46, was a self-made entrepreneur. 10 years ago, he had transformed a crumbling diner on the edge of town into a high-end restaurant that quickly became the pride of Coleridge. Known for his integrity and hands-on approach, Mason was beloved by staff and regulars alike. But over the past few months, something had shifted. Profits dipped, longtime staff quit without warning, and patrons complained of cold service and missing items on their bills. Rumors swirled, but no one dared say it to Mason's face. So, on a rainy Monday evening, Mason donned a ball cap, a gray hoodie, and glasses. He became Mark, a solo traveler passing through town. No one recognized him. Mason's Bistro was a tight-knit establishment, or so Mason had thought. There was Jess, the bubbly waitress known for remembering customers' orders by heart. Miguel, the head chef with a heart as fiery as his sauces. And Lisa, the new night manager who had joined just 2 months prior. Lisa was the first red flag. Young, efficient, and seemingly polite, she had charmed her way into leadership. But Mason had heard whispers that she cut corners, pressured staff, and even pocketed tips. That night, Mason watched carefully. He noticed the way Lisa hovered near the register, slipping small bills into her coat pocket. He saw Jess, visibly stressed, forced to wait tables, handle drinks, and manage to go orders all at once. But what truly shattered him was the moment he heard sobbing behind the kitchen door. Jess Matthews, 28, was a single mother of 2 and one of Mason's first hires. She had worked at the bistro for 8 years and was considered family. Behind that kitchen door, Mason found Jess with her face buried in her hands, whispering into her phone, "I can't take it anymore. If I don't get that money by Friday, we're out." And Lisa threatened me again. Mason froze. Threatened money. He retreated, shaken. He needed answers. Over the next few days, Mason continued to pose as Mark, returning at different times, watching, listening. He began documenting everything. Lisa's shady behavior, discrepancies in receipts, and tense interactions with staff. Then came the breaking point. Jess didn't show up for work. Lisa claimed she had family stuff. But Miguel slipped Mason a note, asterisk, check the alley behind the dumpster. That night, Mason did. What he found would change everything. A small duffel bag with Jess's name tag inside, blood-stained napkins, and a torn piece of uniform. The police were called. Jess had been reported missing. Detective Aaron Dale took the case. A 20-year veteran with sharp instincts. She was immediately suspicious of Lisa. Security footage from the alley revealed a hooded figure dragging what appeared to be a limp body toward a black SUV, the same car Lisa drove. But it was blurred. They brought Lisa in for questioning. She was calm, too calm. Jess was a good worker. Maybe she just ran off. But then came the second twist. When they searched Lisa's apartment, they found burner phones, wads of unreported cash, and a ledger. Inside, names, numbers, and codes. Lisa wasn't just stealing from the restaurant. She was running a trafficking operation, using Mason's Bistro as a front. Young women, often vulnerable, were lured under the guise of jobs and then blackmailed or coerced into illegal schemes. Jess had discovered it. She had tried to back out. And now she was missing. Coleridge was shaken. News spread fast. Protests erupted. Mason was heartbroken but relentless. He vowed to find Jess. Miguel, who had grown close to Jess, stepped forward. "I heard them. Lisa and a man. The night before Jess vanished. They mentioned moving her, and no loose ends." Detective Dale connected the dots. Lisa had a partner, and he was still out there. Lisa, under pressure, finally cracked. She admitted to involvement but claimed she was just the middlewoman. He threatened me too, she said. Said if I didn't help keep the girls in line, I was next. But who was he? The ledger listed one name at the top: Crow. Crow was a nickname for Darius Crowley, a former Coleridge resident turned career criminal. He had vanished years ago but had returned under a new identity. And guess where he worked? As a supplier for Mason's Bistro. He delivered meats and produce under Crow's Farm Fresh Goods. He had been there the whole time. Using Lisa's confession, they tracked Crow to a farmhouse 20 miles outside of town. Inside, they found Jess, alive but drugged, along with 3 other missing women. Crow tried to run. A tense standoff ended with his arrest. Jess was hospitalized but survived. She spoke bravely to the press a week later. I knew someone would come. I just didn't know it would be my boss, my friend. Lisa received 25 years. Crow, facing multiple federal charges, may never see daylight again. Mason rebuilt his restaurant, this time with Jess as co-manager. In the darkest corners, sometimes the people we trust the most can betray us. But one person's courage to listen, to act, can save lives. Just as peace returns to Coleridge, Detective Dale receives an anonymous package on her desk. Inside, another ledger, and a note: Crow was just the beginning. Coleridge, Oregon, was a town rebuilding itself. Mason's Bistro reopened after 3 weeks of silence, now a symbol of resilience and recovery. Jess, though emotionally and physically scarred, stood proud beside Mason as co-manager. The staff who had stayed through the nightmare, Miguel, old servers, even new hires, wore black pins with Jess's initials in silent solidarity. The community held candlelight vigils. Social workers poured in. Donations came from all across the state to support Jess and the other rescued women. But for Detective Dale, the fight was far from over. The ledger in the anonymous package wasn't just a record of names. It contained new victims, some still missing, others possibly active in other towns. It also detailed larger operations across multiple states. Oregon was only a hub. At the top of the new list was a name circled in red ink: J.S. Jess Matthews. The chilling implication? She had been marked. Not just as a victim, but perhaps as a threat, or worse, a potential recruit. Detective Dale called Jess in for questioning, not to accuse, but to protect. Jess, I need to ask you something. Before Lisa, before the threats, did anyone approach you? Anyone strange? Offer you something? Jess hesitated. There was a man, weeks before everything, said he was scouting talent for an event company. Wanted to meet again. I thought it was sketchy. I never went. Mason's face went pale. Why didn't you say anything? I didn't want to seem paranoid. We needed the job. I couldn't afford to scare it away. Dale connected the dots. This wasn't random. Jess had been targeted long before she stumbled onto Lisa's operation. She had been marked, and now, even after escape, they wanted her back or silence. Using forensic accountants and cybercrime units, Dale and her team dug into the financial trails from Crow's Farm Fresh Goods. What they found was a shell network of companies feeding into a single larger conglomerate. Eden Logistics, a seemingly innocent delivery company operating up and down the West Coast. Inside its board, shell executives, false identities, and one real person, Victor Langston, a wealthy philanthropist and media darling. Langston had donated to missing persons charities, hosted awareness events, even funded shelters. And now, his name was on the new ledger. Langston was scheduled to host a lavish, invite-only gala in Portland under the guise of raising money for victims of urban exploitation. Dale knew this was a cover, a potential front for networking or moving trafficked victims. She had to act fast. She needed someone on the inside. Jess stepped forward. "I'll do it," she said. "Let me be the bait." Mason objected. "Absolutely not. You've been through too much." But Jess was resolute. "They stole my life. I'm taking it back." The team prepared for the sting. Jess would pose as a newly recruited assistant to one of the event caterers, fitted with a wire and GPS. The gala was hosted in a private estate outside Portland, crawling with celebrities, executives, and government officials. Champagne flowed, laughter echoed, but Jess walked through it all with her heart pounding like a drum. Then she saw him. Victor Langston. Taller than expected, charismatic, eyes like glass, and watching, always watching. Jess was ushered to his table. Langston smiled. "You look familiar. Have we met?" Jess froze. "No, sir. First time catering." He smiled again. "Interesting, because I never forget a face." Suddenly, Jess's earpiece went static. Her GPS signal vanished. In the control van outside, Dale's voice cracked. "We lost her. We've lost visual." Inside, Langston leaned closer. "Tell me, have you ever heard of Eden?" Jess tried to stay calm. "Just the garden, sir." He laughed. Coldly. "You're not very good at lying, Jess." Langston stood and offered his arm. "Let's take a walk. There's someone I want you to meet." Jess hesitated, then followed. Outside, Mason's voice crackled over Dale's radio. "Tell me you still have eyes on her." Dale whispered. "We don't. She's gone off-grid." The garden behind the estate was surreal, lit by soft string lights, lined with hedges, fountains, and murmurs of shallow conversation. Langston guided Jess with a firm hand, his charisma thinly veiling a deeper menace. "You see," he said, "most people think this world runs on money. But it doesn't. It runs on leverage." Jess scanned the faces around her. High-ranking officials, local celebrities, even retired judges, mingling in a twisted fantasy of goodwill. Was she the only one who knew the truth? Or was she the only one pretending not to? Langston led her to a marble gazebo. Inside stood a woman dressed in a navy gown, face masked. When she turned, Jess gasped. It was Lisa. Not in cuffs. Not behind bars. Alive. Free. Lisa's eyes narrowed. "You didn't think it was over, did you?" Jess tried to speak, but words caught in her throat. Langston smiled. "We take care of our own. Lisa was too valuable to lose. We had to make her disappear temporarily." Back at the van, Dale's team scrambled. "Pull up every exit feed. We need her on surveillance. Now." Lisa reached for Jess's hand and whispered, "You always had potential. We don't waste potential." Jess pulled away. "You lied to me. Used me." Langston interrupted. "We gave you purpose. What did Mason ever give you? A paycheck and pity." Suddenly, Jess's instincts kicked in. She wasn't just bait anymore. She was a threat. She had to act. Jess excused herself with a forced smile and walked calmly through the garden. Once out of sight, she ran. Between hedges, through service hallways. But every exit had guards. Every hallway had cameras. She ducked into the catering kitchen and yanked a knife from the prep station. Hands shaking. Breath short. Just then, a voice crackled in her earpiece, barely audible. "Jess, if you can hear me, find the cellar. Northeast side. Hidden door behind the wine rack." It was Dale. Jess bolted, weaving through corridors until she found it. The wine cellar was massive, dimly lit. She pressed against the back wall and found it, the false rack. A latch. She pulled it. Behind the rack was a tunnel, lit with flickering bulbs. Underground. Inside, rows of beds, boxes, and documents. A makeshift holding area. Surveillance monitors showed multiple locations. Warehouses, motels, even what looked like an airport hangar. Jess whispered, "Oh my God. Evidence. Proof. Everything they needed to take down Eden." She grabbed a stack of files and turned to leave, when a silhouette appeared at the tunnel entrance. It was Langston. Come. Smiling. "You're braver than I thought." Jess stepped back. "This ends now." Langston nodded. "You're right. It does." Suddenly, the lights flickered. and the door behind him slammed shut. From the shadows, a second figure emerged. Mason. And he wasn't alone. Standing behind Mason was a woman with a steely gaze, Detective Erin Dale. Clad in tactical gear, she held up her badge with one hand and a stun grenade in the other. "Step aside, Langston," Dale commanded. "This is over." Langston chuckled. "Over? No, Detective. It's just beginning." Before he could move, Dale launched the grenade. A blinding flash filled the tunnel, followed by chaos, screams, running footsteps, Jess's heart pounding in her ears. When the smoke cleared, Langston was gone, escaped into one of the secondary tunnels. Mason, Dale, and Jess sprinted through the labyrinthine passages. Each corridor twisted like a snake. Faint lights revealed glimpses of abandoned rooms, hastily cleared. Suddenly, Jess stumbled over something. Someone. A girl. No older than 16. She was conscious but terrified. "We're here to help," Jess whispered. The girl pointed ahead. "He took others. Said they're moving them tonight." Dale radioed backup. "We have live hostages. Repeat, live victims in transit. Mobilize every unit." Jess stayed with the girl as Mason and Dale pressed forward. A distant sound echoed, engines roaring. They reached a garage beneath the estate, where black SUVs lined up. One vehicle screeched out of the tunnel, Langston inside. Dale raised her gun, but Mason stopped her. Too risky. Too many lives still at stake. They watched helplessly as the car vanished into the night. The sting operation erupted across the city. Eden's warehouses, safe houses, and fake businesses were raided. Dozens of victims rescued. Dozens of high-profile names exposed. Jess sat in the hospital beside the rescued girl, holding her hand. "You're safe now," she whispered. But Jess knew it wasn't over. Not yet. Later, she met Mason outside the restaurant. "Why didn't you tell me how deep this went?" Mason sighed. "Because I didn't know who I could trust. Even now, I'm not sure." Jess handed him a folder. Inside, documents implicating a city council member, a media executive, and a former police chief. "It's bigger than Eden," she said. And Langston wasn't the top. Dale burst through the door, breathless. He called. "Who?" Mason asked. "Langston. He's offering a deal. Proof of the real leader, in exchange for full immunity." Jess stared at her. "You're not seriously considering it?" Dale didn't answer, but the storm in her eyes said it all. Some crimes don't begin with violence. They begin with silence. When we stop asking questions, when we look away from the truth because it's inconvenient or uncomfortable, that's when evil takes root. Courage isn't just about confronting danger. It's about confronting ourselves. Weeks later, a letter arrived at Jess's doorstep. No return address. Just a phrase on the front. "You exposed one branch. Now meet the root." Inside, a photograph of her taken that morning. From across the street. Jess sat in her apartment, blinds drawn. The photo lay on the table, still damp from the rain. She studied the angle. Someone had taken it from the rooftop across the street. Her heart pounded as she dialed Mason. "They're watching me," she said. "Stay where you are." "I'm on my way," Mason replied, his voice a blend of fear and fury. Before Mason arrived, Jess's phone pinged again. An email. No subject. A single video file attached. She hesitated, then hit play. The grainy footage showed a lavish office. Floor-to-ceiling windows. A man in a navy blue suit stood at the center, face obscured. Langston's voice echoed. "Everything is in motion. The distraction worked." The man replied, calm and cold. "Good. Let the public feast on the scandal. While they look left, we move right." Then he turned toward the camera. His face came into view. Jess gasped. Councilman Terrence Miles. A beloved public servant. A man who had comforted victims on national television. Jess met Mason and Dale that night. They watched the video together. Dale's fists clenched. "That man funded the victim outreach program," she said bitterly. "He visited shelters. He knew those girls by name. And used their stories for cover," Jess added. The trio agreed. They needed hard evidence before going public. Langston had mentioned a failsafe, a digital ledger kept in a hidden server farm. The server was located in an abandoned bank downtown, masked as a non-profit's archive. Mason and Jess posed as renovators. Dale provided intel. The basement vault was sealed tight. But Mason, using his old military contacts, disabled the lock. Inside, rows of servers blinked quietly. Jess inserted a drive. Data flooded in. Names, transactions, locations. Terrence Miles was at the top of the hierarchy, but there was one more name below his. They returned to Dale's precinct. Just before handing the files over to the FBI, Dale froze. "Look at the timestamp," she murmured. "The last login? 2 hours ago." Someone else had accessed the files from inside law enforcement. Jess's eyes widened. "That means there's someone else inside your team." They scanned the data again. Another user profile. Alias. Raven X. Dale searched her internal logs. One IP matched. Detective Carlos Vega, Dale's former partner. They confronted Vega that night. He denied everything, but his laptop, seized under emergency warrant, told the truth. Vega had been leaking case details to Miles for years, helping reroute investigations, silencing witnesses. As officers let him out in cuffs, he whispered to Jess, "You think this is over? You have no idea what you've started." The next morning, Councilman Miles was arrested live on national television. News channels exploded. Protesters filled the streets. Survivors came forward in waves. A reckoning began. The Eden Ring, once hidden beneath smiles and suits, lay exposed for the world to see. A month later, Jess walked into the restaurant she once tried to shut down. Now rebuilt. Now safe. She sat at a table by the window. The waitress, Maya, smiled. "Feels different now, huh?" Jess nodded. "It does." Like the nightmare finally ended. But as Maya turned, Jess noticed something strange. A man sitting at the far end of the restaurant. Staring. Watching. He wore a pin. A golden tree. The same symbol that had appeared in the Eden files. Some crimes don't begin with violence. They begin with silence. When we stop asking questions, when we look away from the truth because it's inconvenient or uncomfortable, that's when evil takes root. Courage isn't just about confronting danger. It's about confronting ourselves. Evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it wears a smile. It shakes your hand, serves your food, reads bedtime stories to your kids. The true test isn't exposing monsters. It's making sure we never become too comfortable to see them.